On our next podcast for Lent, I think this is number 20, I want to talk about solitude. I actually love being in nice, quiet, small places. I like being in wilderness areas. I've loved traveling all over different places and going off on my own and finding a space that feels what I call a thin space, closer to God in lots of ways. And so I want to talk about solitude. And part of the reason I want to is that any wilderness experience, of which obviously Lent, we've been talking about this for a few days now, is somewhere where it's not always easy, but also where God seems to get through. And the reason I want to talk about it is that Jesus talked about it. One of the first things in Mark's Gospel, in Mark chapter 1, verse 35, is that it says that Jesus went off in the early morning to a solitary place to pray. So if you want to look that up, that's Mark 1:35. And I just want to say how important that is. There's a quote from a particular brother who came to an abbot called Moses in a monastery, and said to him, can you help me? And the old man said, go sit in your cell, and your cell will teach you everything. Now the cell was that small room, bedroom if you like, with not much in it at all. A cross, a little table, probably a lamp, a Bible, and maybe that was it really, apart from just clothing. And that was his space. And the abbot was really saying, look, this is what happens if you go there. Anthony of Egypt once said, and I quote you this, I've got it in front of me here, the one who sits in solitude and quiet has escaped from 3 wars, hearing, speaking, and seeing. Yet against one thing shall he continually battle, that is his one heart. So there's something about when you get into these places where really you haven't got the usual things around you, it can be really helpful to do that. There was a vicar once who said to his congregation, despite a number having a background in a quiet space, the reality is that most neglect it. They rarely manage a prayerful time alone with God, and even less likely a time of silence and stillness. They survive spiritually, he said, on what happens in church and elsewhere. Indeed, some participants found going into this cell way too uncomfortable. But I want to encourage you that actually it is a brilliant place to be. It gets rid of the scaffolding of life. You don't have any friends to talk with. You don't have a telephone to call people with. You don't need to go to a meeting. You don't need music to entertain you. You don't even need what I've got behind me, which is books to distract me. Although I could talk again about how that sometimes could be helpful. But it's a kind of a place where you go into a dark abyss, a wilderness of nothingness, where your false self is not there. It's you get rid of that and you get back to your real self. You die to false self, as Henry Nouwen, a noted theologian of about 150 years ago, once, well, maybe not that long, once said. So I want to encourage you to find a solitary place, and I want to revisit this next time. So that's that one. We'll come back next time to a different idea on the same thing.